And we have a YouTube channel where you can watch recordings. Some of the first ones we didn't record, and so they're not all up there, but we've had some amazing guests, and you can always go there to get your fill of good stuff. So there's a YouTube channel also on the Happy Hour for Hope website, which is happyhourhope.com. We keep the videos there as well. We have a Facebook group, and I post information there about good stuff happening in the world and when our next session is coming up and who's going to be the guest. So you can always find out through the Facebook page. And so far, since June of 2020, we have contributed as a community, let me make that bigger, $8,700 to these various organizations. And if you would like to make a contribution, all you have to do is go here, happyhourhope.com, and it looks something like this. And I always have the name of the next guest on there, so you can just pop in there if you're wondering who's up next. There's also a donate button up in that upper right-hand corner. And if you'd like to make a donation, it brings up these buttons and you can buy a drink. So you can buy a soft drink for $5, beer or wine for 10, a cocktail for 15, a pitcher of margaritas for 25. You can buy us a round for $50, and top shelf champagne is $100. And of course, that's how you make your contribution. So one day we will all sit together and we will have a drink. That is my vision, that we would do this live. But for now, this is how you can make your contribution. And I would like to introduce Rich Sheridan to tell us about tonight's charity. And just welcome Rich. Rich and I met about, is it 20 years ago?
Well, we just passed our 20th birthday in June. So I'm guessing you met us probably in the first year of operation. So it's probably been at least 19 years, Andrew.
Because Menlo started in 2001, right?
Yep. June 12th, 2001.
Yeah. And I was at a meeting in Ann Arbor. I was living in Ann Arbor, and I was talking about, I was kind of disillusioned with the world of business, disillusioned, no pun intended, disillusioned with the world of business. And so I had started this initiative called the Search for Courageous Leaders. And it was just a study that I was doing, looking for people that were creating new ways of doing business that were more honoring of the human spirit. And so I was talking to this group, and I think we both know Rob Pasick, right?
Yep.
Rich, he's a buddy of mine, and
yep.
and Rob had a thing called Leaders Connect, and so I was talking there, and guy came up to me afterwards and he said, this Search for Courageous Leaders thing, you need to meet my boss.
Can't hear you, Andrew.
Pardon? Are we good? So he said, you need to meet my boss, Rich Sheridan. So Rich and I connected, and we sat and had a conversation. We were just talking about sitting down in the basement of that first office on what street was that?
4th Avenue.
4th Avenue.
12 North 4th, right next door to the Cafe Verde coffee shop.
Yeah. And I think we knew that we were, comrades in this, mission to make work for everyone. And so Rich started Menlo Innovations 20 years ago, and it has grown into something. I have so many questions to ask you, Rich, about, did you ever envision all of this? And to tell you all about Menlo Innovations would be, my goodness, a day long. It just, there's so much there, but Rich is really great at telling people about what they do and why and how and all of that. I encourage you to read his books. Joy Incorporated was his first book, and Chief Joy Officer was his second most recent book. Great books, so inspiring, and so great to know that there are organizations out there that have a view of the world that is it's about more than making money. Of course, you have to make money, and you can also make the world a better place through your business. And that's what they're doing at Menlo Innovations. So our charitable partner for tonight is Rich's favorite charity, and that's called Haiti Partners. And if you would, my friend, tell us maybe about your connection with them and what they do.
So early on at Menlo, an organization, another nonprofit called World Blue found us. And their theme at the time, they've changed it a little bit since then, but it's essentially the same message. They were searching for the world's most democratic workplaces, lowercase d democratic, you know, transparent, fairness in decision making, that sort of thing. Eventually, they changed their theme to freedom-centered workplaces. So this belief by my friend Tracy Fenton was that, like you, Andrew, there's just a different way to run businesses, and it's not some kind of weird zero-sum game. Very profitable companies are part of the World Blue family of, people have been honored by them and attended their conferences and spoken. And in those meetings that I would go to, their conferences, I met a gentleman by the name of John Engel. And John founded Haiti Partners. And John and his wife, Marlene, run Haiti Partners. And they are just doing amazing work down in Haiti through education. And so that's their primary focus. Every once in a while, their focus has to shift when there's a hurricane or an earthquake, and they reach out for more help, that sort of thing. And obviously, they've gone through that recently again. So, but I will tell you, John and his team down at Haiti Partners, the real deal. They're making big changes. And I thought, Andrew, I'm going to just play a 90-second video that's on their website that'll give you some insight into how they work. And can you all see that now? Did I share it yet? I did share it, didn't I?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
seeing it.
Okay, great. Sorry. I think a software engineering guy would Zoom is working the way it's supposed to.
Bonjour, bienvenue en Haïti. Moi, c'est Leïsa. J'ai 12 ans. Moi, dans 6e année fondamentale dans ADK. Une belle l'école dans le monde en Port-au-Prince, dans la communauté que je vis. Moi, je suis communauté moyen, avec tout bagage sur l'école moyen. Il y a un pile qui est content dans l'école. Nous apprenons un pile bagay que dans l'école qui dans zone rurale Haïti pour apprendre. Informatique de base, anglais, espagnol et français. Nous apprenons dans l'école là tout agriculture de base qui montre nous qui j'ai pour nous travailler terre. Surtout à utilisation méthode permaculture pour nous grandir puis plus manger. Nous avons découvert moi-même technologie et puis professeur Arsenault dis-moi apprendre vite. Je souhaite un jour pour me venir fort pour me aider l'autre petit monde qui a handicap en Haïti à apprendre technologie tout. Espoir moi c'est ouais, nous toutes dans l'école ça venir à changement pour pays nous. Il y a un gros bagage qui a passé ici là sous monde là.
So I have met the team that does this work. I haven't been to Haiti myself yet. I would love to go visit them to see this firsthand. Just an amazing group of people. So I would certainly encourage you supporting them as I have over the years.
Thank you, Rich. And so if you would like to make a contribution to Haiti Partners, you can go to happyhourhope.com and make a contribution. And even though it goes through, we're the conduit, this is not 100% of it goes to our charitable partners. This is not a money-making venture for me or anyone else, straight through. So, Rich, I don't really want to say much because I want you to say everything. You're telling the story all the time. At one point you called yourself chief storyteller, didn't you?
It's on my business card, Andrew.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, well, tell us the Menlo story. I think Menlo, I need to shut up. I'm just very excited about Menlo. I think Menlo is the coolest company in the world. And it's really interesting that in Ann Arbor, which is kind of a medium sized, I mean, when I lived there, it was 120,000, I think.
It's a little bit bigger than that now, but not much.
So it's not a huge city, but it's got a couple of really cool companies, Menlo Innovations and Zingerman's. Really amazing, cool companies. Okay, I'm going to shut up. Rich, tell us all about Menlo.
Well, thanks for having me here. Great to be with you all. I'm assuming, Andrew, these are going to be very interactive. Happy to answer questions. Give you a little bit of a personal story first, because I didn't just wake up one day and say, oh, I think I'm going to do this thing. It was born out of what I would call 15 years of pain and a trough of disillusionment. And it's kind of fun. We are at September 9th right now. And it was just about exactly 50 years ago to the day that I first touched a computer as a freshman in high school, north of Detroit, Macomb County. My high school is one of the first 3 counties in the nation to offer computer science at the high school level. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, laid my hands on a computer terminal, because that's the way they used to work. And I typed in a 2-line program and typed the word run, and it clacked out on a roll of paper, "Hi, Rich," because that's what I told it to do. And I was hooked. And I knew what I wanted to do the rest of my days. And I'm 63 now, and I'm still in the software business. So I think I decided pretty well. I eventually typed all of the Major League Baseball players into the computer so my friends and I could play baseball in the cold Michigan winter months. And my teacher encouraged me to enter that into an international programming contest, and I won the gaming category. And the place that was supplying us the compute power, because this was a big feather in their cap for one of their students to win a prize, came down to visit the guy who ran the program. And he said, "Would you like to work for me?" I said, "Doing what?" He says, "Writing code." And I looked at him, I'm 15. I'm like, "You can get paid for doing this?" I had a little idea how much you could get paid for doing this. You should hear some of the salaries that are going around now. It's crazy. But that launched a career. I was writing code professionally for pay before I could even drive a car. Eventually, I came up to Michigan. I got a couple of degrees in computer science and computer engineering, University of Michigan here in Ann Arbor, and fell in love with the town, never left. Started a career here. Started out as a programmer in 1982, had this beautiful career rise for 15 years from that point to 1997, when I became VP of R&D for what would become one of the highest flying public companies in Michigan. And I will tell you, Andrew, I had it all. Everything the world measures as success, I had. Job, title, authority, stock options, paycheck, everything. And my heart was breaking. I wanted out. I didn't want to be anywhere near this industry. I was thinking, Ian will appreciate this, I was thinking of starting a canoe camp in Quetico Provincial Park in Northern Ontario. And if you've ever been up there, it's about as far away from human civilization as you can get. There's this little town called Atikokan. It's like the last stop before you get there, and it's probably got 200 people in it. And so how was it that I had all this success, and yet my heart was breaking for an industry I thought would, in a career that would carry me for a lifetime and keep my family with a house over their head, and pay for college for my 3 daughters, and maybe eventually weddings and all that kind of stuff. And yet here I was. I wanted out. I didn't want to be anywhere near. And those I call my trough of disillusionment days. because, and anybody who knows anything about the software industry, you don't have to get much past the first 3 pages of any Wall Street Journal to hear about some software catastrophe somewhere. You know, people losing records, you know, some system messing up and all that kind of stuff. And that was my life, running from firefight to firefight, angry customers, unhappy customers, blowing budgets, missing deadlines, delivering poor quality. That was my life. Even though I kept getting raises and promotions, everybody was telling me, you're doing a great job. I'm like, no, I'm not. I knew I wasn't. I knew there was a better way of doing things and was customary, and I was determined to find it. The other title that isn't on my card, my team would anoint me with, is Chief Optimist. You stick me in a room full of manure, I will keep digging till I find a pony. And I knew there was a pony in this room somewhere. And so my journey out led me to authors and books, but not books on technology, because quite frankly, technology is trivial compared to how to organize human beings. So my journey led me to authors like Tom Peters, Peter Drucker, Peter Senge. All of these authors were telling me, yes, indeed, Rich, you're right. There's a better way of doing things. They just didn't tell me how to do it. But in 1999, I had a click moment when suddenly all became clear. After probably a dozen years of being in my deep trough of disillusionment, I was now a VP. I had a perch from which to make big changes, and I did. And I transformed a tired old public company over a 2-year period into something that looks a lot like Menlo does today. And I'd probably still be there, except in 2001, the internet bubble burst. The California parent that had bought my company shuttered every remote office they had, including mine here in Ann Arbor. And I was out of work. And I went home, told my wife I'd lost my job. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. And she said, "You're unemployed?" Kick in the inner optimist again. I said, "No, honey, I'm an entrepreneur now." And launched Menlo Innovations with because while I could lose everything, I could lose job, title, authority, paycheck, stock options went to zero, everything gone, except one thing. They could not take away what I'd learned in those 2 years. And that learning became the prototype, what would become the company that's behind me right now. Now it's empty now because it's late. It's 20 after 6 here in Ann Arbor. And interesting thing about Menlo is we only work 40-hour work weeks. We never work weekends. That's unheard of in the software industry. My industry was one who created 24/7 work schedules, and those were not 3 shifts. Those were the same human beings working that kind of shift. Our fundamental belief is tired programmers make bad software. We're not going to have tired people, so we're not going to make bad software. And so a lot of unusual things, Andrew, that I'm sure we'll talk about the way we work. But here's the interesting thing. The world is so intrigued with how we work that 3,000 to 4,000 people a year travel from all over the planet every year just to see it. We do 1 to 3 tours a day of Menlo. And so there are always tour groups coming in to interact with our team, see why we work the way we do, why we think it's more effective. And there's some weird things we do here. So I'm sure we'll get into those things.
You know, that was actually one of my questions, Rich, when I was thinking about this. Did you ever imagine when you started things that this business you started would become kind of a beacon, that it would become a model that people would want to come and learn about? Was that part of your vision, or did that just happen along the way?
I will tell you, this was deeply personal for me. I wanted to build a place that I wanted to come to work every day. And what was interesting was one of my colleagues early on, way back at Interface Systems, the company I prototyped this inside of, he looked at what we were doing and he said, "You will get worldwide recognition for what you're doing here." I kind of shrugged my shoulders because at that point I wasn't thinking about people, you know, coming and visiting and coming from all over the world to see us. I just wanted to do things better. I wanted to do things a better way than customary. And, you know, and the word we've centered everything on now is joy. Joy for us is a very tangible description. We want to delight the people we intend to serve, the end users of the software we're creating. Interestingly, people don't pay us for what we do. People we typically never meet in large numbers, you know, because our customers pay us to build custom software. The software gets delivered and eventually gets used by people. But that's our goal. Joy is for us as a servant-oriented kind of joy. We want to delight the people we intend to serve with the work of our hearts, our hands, and our minds from this room.
And I don't think you've shared with us I don't know if it's the formal mission of Menlo.
It is, yes.
But it's so great.
Our mission is to end human suffering in the world as it relates to technology. There's plenty of it out there. And underneath the mission, it says our goal since 2001 is to return joy to what we believe is one of the most unique endeavors mankind has ever undertaken, the invention of software. Software is a different kind of animal than just about any other kind of discipline, because it's all like invisible and ethereal behind the scenes, hidden inside the silicon of the chips that run the computers and that sort of thing. And I just believed, I mean, that's why I would love I was so excited to be in this industry. And I'll tell you, I have a big goal, and I have some friends in the right places now to achieve this goal. I want to help one day build the software for the Starship Enterprise.
Wow.
And I know the guy who's in charge of all of research for NASA now. He's a close personal friend of mine. So like, this is it. Thomas Zurbuchen, I'm coming your way. We're gonna build that Starship Enterprise together.
Well, there's the connection. I mean, that's 1 degree of separation. That's gotta happen, Rich. So tell us about well, first of all, you call it Menlo Innovations. And I love why you call it Menlo Innovations. You have a real admiration for Thomas Edison.
Yeah, and it's funny how that started. When back at Interface Systems in my old company, we had, we were a software product company. We were bringing software products. Our biggest customer was IBM. And IBM had come to visit one day. And boy, let me tell you, at Interface Systems, when IBM came to visit, you put your white shirts on, you had your dark blue tie, you trimmed all your nose hairs and all that kind of stuff, and shined your shoes and wore your dark blue suit and all that sort of thing. We were sitting in this, walnut paneled boardroom, and this was brand new for us, this new way of working that I was leading with my team, that it looked a lot like what you see behind me here. And in the middle of this meeting, our VP of sales says to the VP from IBM, says, "Ed, would you like to see our development process?" And I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me. You want me to take the suits back to Crazy Land?" So I'm like, "Okay, Keith, it's your customer." And we walked back through the halls and the corridors of Interface Systems, and I opened this big metal door out into what we called the Java factory. It was literally an old repurposed factory space, chipped paint on the floor, bare fluorescent light bulbs, big open room, no walls, no offices, no cubes, no doors. And I will tell you, Andrew, when we opened the door into that space, it's the equivalent of when you go from black and white to color in The Wizard of Oz. And so we walk back, I show Ed, the VP from IBM, everything we're doing. We get back to the boardroom and he says, "Rich, I got to tell you, that is the most amazing thing I have ever seen." He says, "We could never do at IBM what you're doing here. Congratulations." Well, at that point, Andrew, I became tour guide for every customer of Interface Systems. Microsoft, Bell and Howell, Pfizer, CompuWare, they all started coming one after another after another. And of course, I got pretty good at the tours. I started telling stories about the history of just the Java factory at Interface Systems. And then my last name is Sheridan. It's an Irish heritage name. There's a little bit of an Irish storyteller in me. And I started embellishing the stories a little bit. When people say, "Well, how'd you think of this?" I said, "Well, this is very much the way Thomas Edison used to work in his Menlo Park, New Jersey lab." Now, at the time, I had no idea if that was actually true, because it was just a story. And so, but the reason I even had an inkling that this was true was because Thomas Edison's really good friend, Henry Ford, as the Menlo Park, New Jersey lab was falling into ruin in Menlo Park, New Jersey, Henry Ford said to Thomas Edison, "I'm going to move your lab and rebuild it in Dearborn, Michigan." Thomas Edison wagged his finger at Henry Ford and said, "Over my dead body, that building is to remain on New Jersey soil." Henry Ford honored that. He scooped the dirt up from under the building, put it in rail cars, transported the New Jersey soil to Dearborn, Michigan, dug a hole, put the New Jersey soil in the hole, and rebuilt the building on New Jersey soil.
It's there. I've been.
Oh, it's beautiful.
been.
It is so, even
amazing.
Edison got to revisit it before he passed away. And he was even blown away by how perfectly Henry Ford had recreated it. Now, this is in the side of this historical park that has all kinds of amazing. If you're ever in Detroit area, go visit Greenfield Village and the Henry Ford Museum. Absolutely mind-blowing. And I visited that every summer as a kid. Every kid in Southeast Michigan did. And I remember getting goosebumps every time I was in that lab for what had happened there, how it happened, the camaraderie of the team, the human. I mean, I don't know how much of that I could actually envision when I was 8, 9, and 10 years old. But now I'm seeing it play out at Interface Systems, and I start recalling the story. Well, let me tell you, we go to name the company, and I remembered those stories, and I said, hey, let's do it in honor of Edison. Let's call this Menlo Innovations. Now, here's the really cool thing. I thought, man, I better go read the books now, because, you know, it's one thing to tell a story on a tour. It's another one to emblazon it on your website, and this is going to be the name of your company. So I read the books, and the parallels were mind-blowing. And then finally, one day, we had another visitor come to our little shop that you saw, Andrew, and he hands me one of the books I read. And he says, I just wanted to give you this book. I said, well, why are you giving me this book? He says, oh, I'm the author. I'm Paul Israel. I run the Edison Papers project at Rutgers.
Wow.
And we've become close friends. And I once had Paul Israel, John Bowditch, and Bill Pretzer, who is now at the Smithsonian, sit in my office and bring Edison back to life in front of you. They are the they are the world's foremost experts on Thomas Edison. They confirmed that what we have achieved here was very, very similar to the work of Edison in that Menlo Park, New Jersey lab.
Well, so that's a good segue. Ian popped a question into the chat that is, you know, I think the question. And he says, what are the things that you do differently that you're most proud of that make the biggest difference?
Yeah, there's two big ones and then a whole bunch of little ones. So I'll just talk about the two big ones and we can go down any other paths you want.
I have my guess. I have my guess on one. Or no, on two. I'm not.
Okay, we'll see how you do. Write them down and then show me later. Because you're a magician. I don't trust you. You know, you're going to do some sleight of hand. It's like, see, I told you what it was. Ace of Hearts. Yes. I know how you work, Andrew. But the first one is everybody here works in pairs. 2 people, 1 computer, all day long. Same task, same time. The pairs are assigned, and we switch them at least every 5 working days. The human energy that results from this approach is mind-blowing. When people walk into this room, and this is the way we're working, they feel the palpable human energy of Menlo, because everybody's in conversation all day long with one another, solving problems together. And by switching the pairs every 5 days, the cross-pollination, the transfer of knowledge and everything that's happening defeats the biggest problem in the software industry, what I call the tower of knowledge problem, where there's always these individual people who know everything and nobody else knows what they know. And the only way you scale a team of heroes is to scale the heroes. The only way you do that is overtime. And at about 50 or 60 hours, programmers get tired and they start making bad software. We don't want to do that. So by working in this way, if we need to go faster, we can scale the team, because if we have 4 people working on a project and the client says go twice as fast, we bring 4 more people in. Now we have gone from 2 pairs to 4 pairs. And of course, the 4 original people are the seed people to the new pairs. And now they're transferring knowledge. Makes onboarding trivial of new people because no one here is ever alone. Right? You're not just, hey, go in this cube and read this book and you'll all know how we work. No, you have a mentor built right in, and they know their job is to put your hands on the keyboard, teach you through your ears and your fingertips. No, this isn't come watch me work. This is like, no, you are going to do the work. It's going to go a little slower at first, I know, but I'm going to be teaching. This is why I love Peter Senge's book, The Fifth Discipline on the Art and Practice of Building a Learning Organization.
Yeah.
So that's number one. So a lot of human energy. I have this airplane model I use for human organizations, which is the forces at work on an airplane are analogous to the forces at work on a human organization. The lift of human energy, the weight of bureaucracy, the thrust of purpose, and the drag of fear. And if we're going to get our little organizational aircraft off the ground every day, we better have more lift than weight, more human energy than bureaucracy, and more focus on purpose and less application of fear to motivate people. If we get those balances right, our little corporate aircraft will get off the ground every single day. And the other piece, see how you did, Andrew? Let me ask you, what do you think it is?
It has to do with Vikings.
Well, okay, I like that one, but the part that I'm we can talk about Vikings.
I did guess the pairs correctly.
Excellent. I figured you would. We have this special group of people on our team who have a title like no other. We actually trademarked it at the U.S. Patent and Trade Office, so you can have your wife look that one up. And it is the card-carrying members of our team, high-tech anthropologists.
Yes.
And so if you want to build software that delights the people it's intended to serve, guess what? Regular human beings are going to use your work. You better know them. You better study them. You better observe them in their native environment the way an anthropologist would. So our team members, our anthropology team, goes out into the world and studies people, learns their workflow, their habits, their goals as human beings, their vocabulary, brings that information back in order to create the user experience. And what's neat about it is when we get done, the software can be used by the people it was intended to be used by without help text, without training classes, without user manuals. And we don't have to call the people we serve stupid users and write dummies books for those poor people, which was a fundamental belief of our company was we are going to delight them with a wonderful user experience. This isn't about genius designers or genius design concepts. This is about doing the hard work of understanding the human beings you intend to serve. Because I will tell you, engineers, software engineers like me, don't think like regular human beings. They just don't. We understand how the computer works. The typical user doesn't care how the computer works. They just have a job to do. And a lot of people in a moment of frustration probably want to grab their computer or their software engineer and build software and say, why do I need to learn to think like you? Why couldn't you make the software think like me? Well, we can, and we do. And that's a fundamental part. So those two pieces together got us to the point where we got to that joy very quickly and have consistently delivered it.
And there are like mechanics around it too. I mean, you just described the kind of the conceptual parts of it, but the working in pairs, for example, just the details of this. Don't people put their stuff in wagons?
Well, like, because we work in pairs, nobody has their own desk or chair or computer to call their own. They work on this big open environment. They move the tables around. And one of my clever programmers, realized, hey, I got my personal stuff that I want to move around, pictures of my kids and that. So he decided it was easier to just get a little, what do they call that? A radio flyer red wagon. And he just carries his stuff around in the red wagon. And that was actually back at Interface Systems, my old company. And as we started Menlo, I called up Tim because he ended up working at a different company after we started Menlo. And I said, Tim, do you still have the red wagon? I said, can we buy it from you? It's like this amazing artifact. So we actually have the red wagon right here in our space. It's got copies of my books in it and that sort of thing. And there's a story about the red wagon in the book too.
And one day that'll be in the Henry Ford.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I gotta brag here just a moment. Just before the pandemic, like the 6 months before the pandemic, the Henry Ford came to me because they knew my story and they said, Rich, we would like you to be the entrepreneur in residence at the Henry Ford.
No kidding.
Months. And I'm like, now they're coming, they're all nervous. Like, well, I don't know if Rich will say yes. I'm like, are you kidding me? I was like, yes. I probably could have held out. I mean, it's a non-paying position. Well, actually, that's not technically true. They did pay me for a stipend for that, but I would have done it for free. And I probably should have told them that, but I get to hang out. I mean, like full day a week for 6 months at the Henry Ford, and I had a badge that I could swipe in. They could take me back. The cool thing about this museum, it's probably true of every museum, but this museum is mind blowing. If you love anything about history, about innovation and invention, it's just amazing. But only 1% of their collection is out on display. The other 99% is in storage, and I got to go back and see the stuff in storage. Oh my gosh, there's stuff back there. It's just
And folks, if you've never been to the Henry Ford, I mean, it's on a scale with a Smithsonian. It's that level of quality and earnestness, and it's an incredible place. Rich, we're talking about these practices, and one of the things I remember from that very first time you and I got together, and I walked in, and some of the people, they were working in pairs, but they had posters up. They were like foam core with pictures on them. You were talking about the cultural, the human anthropologist.
Yep. I was going to grab one because they're everywhere around here, but yes, keep going.
Yeah. So tell us about that. So what this is they create basically an avatar. I'm not sure what you call it, a case study or a use case.
Persona. Personas are pretty common in like the advertising industry, and a lot of product designers use personas to represent the prototype, if you will, the archetype for a person you're trying to build software for. Our personas are derived from the observations and interviews we did when our anthropologists went out into the world. And then what happens is when they bring that information back, they start writing these little snippet stories about people, just a little, almost like a baseball trading card size story. Gives a person a name, they have a picture. I mean, these are, again, they're archetypes. So the story is fiction, but it's fiction based on what we discovered out in the world. And then we give our customers these little baseball trading cards, and there might be 20 of them after we've done all these interviews. And each one is a different type of person that might use the software, right? One will be, so we did this one project for Snap-on Tools. They're public with their relationship with us, so I can talk about it like a real project. They had us help them design the user experience for a new handheld touchscreen diesel motor diagnostic tool. Okay, so this is the mechanics who work on the big 18-wheeler rigs, and they're gonna, plug this cable under the dashboard to read out the trouble code and diagnose the truck and see what's wrong, and use the graphs and everything to figure out how the engine's running and all that kind of stuff. And so we went out in the world and we studied the people who did this work. And then we came back with all these different kinds of personas. There's the expert mechanic who loves all the latest and greatest high-tech gadgetry. And then there's people who are just joining. And then we found out there's these veterans of the industry. And in this particular case, we called him Gary. We just gave him a name. And Gary was this prototype 20-year veteran, literally a veteran, like went to serve in Vietnam and that sort of thing. And he called these kind of devices, these high-tech devices, he called them techno garbage. And his little tagline, because we often give the personas taglines, is life is frustrating enough without all this techno garbage, right? And now we give the stack of cards to our customer, and we lay out this little foam core board that you're describing with 3 concentric circles on it, like a target, a bullseye. And we said, you could pick one of these personas to put in the middle. And that will be the primary persona for our work. We'll focus all of our design attention. You can put 2 in the secondary circle and up to 3 in the tertiary circle, and all the rest go outside. These will be the focus of our attention on the design. Now, let me tell you, every single customer behaves the same. They look at them all and go, oh, this is good, this is good, this is good. And they take all 20 and they put them in the middle. And they say, oh no, you don't understand. We're trying to dominate a market. We need this to work for everybody. Well, let me tell you, you try and design a product that works for everyone, it ends up working for no one. Every product you ever got frustrated with, the stupid credit card reading machines that you get tortured by, that blink at you and beep at you and tell you to remove your card and don't remove your card and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, trying to make one thing that works for everybody, and it doesn't work for anybody. So we tell them, we smile and say, you got to pick one. Oh, this is going to be really hard. These meetings sometimes last for hours, and there's arguments, and they're yelling at each other. And they finally pick the expert, and they put him in the middle. No surprise, right? And they looked at Gary and they just tossed him aside. Said, why would we want to build a product for somebody who calls the products techno garbage?
So Gary didn't win that one.
Yeah, he didn't.
He did?
Well, I just said not yet he didn't, because
Oh.
what happened was, and we looked at him, we said, okay, we've been out in the world studying your customers. Jimmy, who you picked, is the expert. What we discovered in your shops that you want to sell this product in large numbers, there is either 0 or 1 Jimmy. That's it. Every shop had 0 or 1 Jimmy. They have 20 Garys.
Oh, wow.
We said, so how many of these you want to sell? And they said, oh, we want to sell thousands of them. Like, how many shops are there? Well, there's like 10,000 shops. Like, okay, you might sell 5,000 if you build it for Jimmy. You might sell 30,000 if you build it for Gary. Oh,
Nice.
Gary hates techno garbage. What if we could design it so that Gary understands how to use it? You can do that?
So
Yes.
cool.
And so we did, and they dominated that market as soon as that product launched. It was delightful.
So cool. Dan asked a good question too. How is joy enacted in Menlo? It permeates everything.
It does. I always say that if you came to visit, I can draw a short, straight line back to everything we do, back to joy. So let's talk about pairing. Just start there because that's a familiar topic already. Why would pairing lead to joy? Well, a lot less mistakes made. You make a mistake in software today that doesn't get discovered for 6 months, and it tanks a customer, it loses data, big numbers like you read about in the Wall Street Journal. That is demoralizing for the people who did the work. If you work at Menlo in pairs and you're working with your pair partner, we give our team a chance, as W. Edwards Deming said so long ago, we give our team a chance to work with pride. Deming said it best. He says, all anyone ever asks for is a chance to work with pride, and we give them that. And by switching the pairs and sharing the knowledge, nobody becomes a tower of knowledge. And guess what? You know what that really means? If people want to take 1 month off and go on a vacation with their family, vacation of a lifetime, they're not checking email while they're away. We literally, just through peer pressure alone, we stopped all of your electronic communications. You cannot check email while you're on vacation. It's hilarious to hear the stories of vacations where a couple goes on vacation and the husband doesn't work for Menlo and the wife does. And he's looking at her like she's out on the beach with the kids playing in sand, making sandcastles. And the husband's sitting on his, on the chaise lounge with his laptop, whacking away on emails. And he's like, don't you have to do work? And she says, no, I'm on vacation. Well, yeah, I am on vacation too, but I got to do work. She says, no, not at Menlo. And so for us, again, what is the purpose of vacation? Give people a chance to rejuvenate, enjoy their lives outside of work, come back to work refreshed. How refreshed are you going to be? Now, that doesn't mean when they come back, they got 1,000 emails because their pair partners are helping them handle that. And so all of this work being done in pairs means that people can have a true work-life balance, right? When they hit the door at the end of the day, they're done. There's nobody at home right now who's like, oh, I better check my work email. Now, I might do that. That's just me, but I'm not building software. So, but even me, I will tell you, the team has held me accountable on this front too. When I go on vacation, I remember one time Anna came to me, my assistant, she said, hey, Rich, you've been working really hard. You need to enjoy your vacation. I don't want you checking an email while you're away. I'm like, what? No. I don't want to come back to 1,000 emails. She says, that's all right. She says, I'll handle your emails. The ones I can't handle, I'll tell them that you're on vacation. You'll be back in a week. And I'll just leave them in another folder for you to answer. When I came back, there were 18 messages in that folder. That was it.
Wow.
Yeah, tell me about it. That was joy for me. So even the CEO can experience that kind of joy. But for us, the joy is very tangible. The way we measure it here is, are we delighting the people we intend to serve? This is a servant oriented mission. We want to see the work we do get out into the world and delight the people that it's intended to serve so much that they come back later and tell us, I love this software. That's all that matters to us. Everything we do is to produce that result systematically and regularly over and over and over again. The spirit of our team that lifts when we do that, right? Because you think you get a chance to see your work get out into the world and have people come back and tell you, I love what you did. That is joy for our team.
And there's a little bit of joy every morning, right? I'm not sure how you're doing that now with people working from home a lot, but the morning stand up.
Yes, let me show you what that looks like. Just because I can.
Yeah.
We do these virtual tours now. So anybody wants to come on a free 90-minute virtual tour can come, but I can show you what the stand-up looks like just because we show that on our tours. So let's see. Zoom, share screen. Boop. We go, and so every morning at 10 o'clock, this dartboard goes off. The dartboard has an alarm in it. We don't know why a dartboard needs an alarm. Time for darts. I don't know, but we programmed it because we're programmers. So at 10 o'clock every morning, this dartboard goes off. Bong, 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 bong. There's the plastic Viking helmet, Andrew.
Yeah.
We stand in a circle. We pass around the talking stick, which is our 2-horn plastic Viking helmet. We like the 2 horns because we work in pairs, so we report out in pairs. You can ask us about the Menlo Babies. That's little Josiah. We have had 26 Menlo Babies since 2000, well, since 14 years ago when the first baby came. It's an option for parents to bring their babies to work with them, not a daycare. Babies with the parent all day long or with the team who wants to support them. You saw me holding little Josiah there. But this is our daily stand-up routine for 19 years. And of course, can't do this during pandemic times. So we thought, oh, let's try Zoom. Now, the delightful thing about daily stand-up with that many people, it still takes 13 minutes. Imagine that, 60, 70 people. 13-minute meeting. We hate meetings. We think they're mind-numbing, spirit-sucking, energy-draining devices of management. So the ones we have, we keep short. And so 13-minute stand-up, everybody gets a chance to talk, report on what they're working on, where they need help, any other general announcements. And of course, the pandemic hits, we got to switch to Zoom, total disaster. And stand-up just starts taking 35 minutes because nobody knows who's first, who's next, who's paired with whom, has everybody gone yet, and all that kind of stuff. Run the experiment to the rescue. Team says, hey, let's just put our names in the chat window as we arrive with our pair partner, and that'll become the equivalent of the plastic Viking helmet. And delightfully, stand-up went back down to 13 minutes. Now we got back to clunky again when we started getting some people back in the office and others out on Zoom. So, and we started working on that, and that started working too. And now it's fun again. So we have people, working sort of in both places now, what I call emergent Menlo now. So anyways, that's what stand-up looks like.
And it's not like you actually planned it to be 13 minutes, right? It just always seems to work out. And it's
weird.
not,
it's
yeah.
weird. It's like there's a law of the universe that stand-up lasts 13 minutes. It can last 13 minutes if there's 8 people there. It can last 13 minutes if there's 80 people there. I don't understand it. All I know is we look at the dartboard and it almost always says 10:13. It's bizarre.
And I've been able to participate in stand up. I think you do invite guests to jump in, right?
That's why when we pass the Viking helmet around, we actually introduce ourselves. People think that's weird because, like, don't you know who works here? And we're like, no, we always have guests that stand up. So we want to be polite and say, good morning, I'm Rich and I'm James, and this is what we're working on today.
And the guests, the tours, that has become a revenue stream, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. I mean, people want to come learn from us, and we don't keep anything a secret. We share everything.
It's all open book management, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. Even to the point of everybody knows pay levels for everybody. I mean, it's complete transparency. And But people want to come visit. They want to learn from us. We don't tell them that this is the one true way of working, but here's a living, breathing example. So 3,000 to 4,000 people a year come. Some stay for days. Some take deep classes, formal classes. That's where the revenue stream comes in. In June of 2020, after the pandemic was going for 3 months, we said, hey, let's try a virtual tour of the virtual Menlo and see if anybody cares. And oh boy, did they. We
Really?
started doing, oh my gosh, we've had 2,000 people come from 64 countries and 39 states since June of 2020. It's incredible.
Wow. And that leads me to tell us about your life, because you have become such an ambassador for the company. I mean, pre-pandemic, you were speaking at a lot of events, right?
Yeah, it's funny. My next week looks like a normal week from my old life. I'm getting in a car and driving to Grand Rapids. Then I'm coming back and running to the airport to fly on a plane to Arizona to speak at a conference down there. So it's all of a sudden, it's like, wow, that's the life I remember, where I live every week at Detroit Metro Airport, and literally all over the world, Tokyo, Singapore, Berlin several times, one of my favorite cities, all over Europe. That was my life, was going around the world speaking.
And the thing is that you are the CEO. And so you're the CEO and you're also out there sharing the story. So how do you manage all of that?
Well, we created a system-based environment, not a hero-based environment. So I'm not the central hero here. I'll tell you, this place runs without me. It's delightful for me. It's a system that works. Everybody understands the system. They know how to move it forward. Do I still have an important role here? Of course I do. I'm bringing this message to the world, and people want to come visit us. Some of the visitors want to stay and talk to us deeper about potentially helping them in some way, either improve their own processes or have us build software for them. So I'm a bit at the tip of the spear, and I am, in my heart, I'm a systems thinker. So I just love thinking about systems. And so I will still contribute to improving the systems we have here, but it's certainly not just me.
Jennifer, who is my wife, says you must have no attrition, Rich.
Yeah, no. Oh, no. No, people leave here all the time, and sometimes we ask them to leave. It's just a reality of business. These are regular human beings here. We just had a young kid leave here. He'd only been here 4.5 months, cried telling us, literally cried, because he was so sad to leave us. In this crazy world we're in right now, he got recruited away by Google, and they're going to pay him. He's a fresh kid out of college, and they're going to pay him don't tell my team this, by the way, $100,000 more a year than we're paying him.
Holy smokes.
I can't compete with that, right? And our team members do become quite sought after. Now, will he be perfectly happy there? I don't know. And we invite boomerangs to come back, and we've had many of them come back, and because they come back smarter, they come back wiser, they come back more valuable. We're okay with that. I used to work for companies who would blackball you if you ever left, right? Like, oh, we'll never talk to you again. We'll scratch your name out of the book of life of our company. Like,
you're
really?
dead to me.
Yeah, why would you? I mean, why do human beings behave like that? It's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
So yes, people leave for all the reasons that people leave anywhere, and some people who come here right out of college, that they think this is just the way all companies work. Those become our ranks.
That's the way, that was my experience when I worked for Ross Perot. It was my first job, not my first job, but very early. And I thought that that's the way leadership was done everywhere. And it was this great experience. But I also, as I had contact with other companies and other, I found out, okay, this is really the exception. So I just wanted to mention, everyone, that we are at 7 o'clock, and understand if you have to go. If you'd like to make a contribution to Haiti partners, happyhourhope.com is the place to go. And Rich, if you have a few more minutes, and if anyone wants to keep talking, do you have a few more minutes?
Sure, absolutely. Yep.
Because we have a great question that Randy asked. He said, you mentioned fear, which is one of the big inhibitors to innovation and growth.
Mhm.
How do you address the fear of risk taking and encourage innovation despite risk of failure? Great question.
Yeah. So we have a few key phrases here at Menlo that drive the fear out of the room, and they're just so common that you'll hear them spoken almost every day here. Number one is make mistakes faster. So it's a simple declaration by the team to itself. We are human. We're going to make mistakes. It's just a truth about our humanity. So we have a choice. We can either make really big, slow mistakes, expensive, or we can make small mistakes quickly and correct them before they kill us. And so by declaring to the team, we know you're going to make mistakes, make them faster. Don't worry about it. Don't get upset, right? The other one is we have a poster in the room that says, it's okay to say, I don't know. Most organizations don't tolerate, I don't know. And then I think the biggest one here is one where it is the central point of take action versus take a meeting. And the phrase we use here is, let's run the experiment. So all of you have had some moment in your lives where you had some brilliant new idea that you woke up with. You know, you dreamt it, you came up with it in that ethereal time between sleep and wakefulness, and you're like, this is it. If we start working like this, and you go to work and they didn't read what you read, they didn't hear what you heard, you know, maybe you saw some speaker and you're like, I've got this great new idea. And somebody looks and goes, that won't work here.
Yeah.
It's not the way we do things. We tried that 10 years ago. It didn't work then. It won't work now. And right then and there, you know it. The idea dies on the vine because you're busy. You've got emails to answer. You got meetings to go to. You got phone calls to get back on. And the idea just dies. And our team is pre-programmed in that moment. Just look them in the eye and say, I get it, but let's try it before we defeat it. Let's run the experiment. And our most famous experiment occurred 14 years ago when Tracy had little Maggie. She came into the office and said, I'm ready to come back to work, but we don't know what to do with Maggie because the daycare we plan to use this fall, grandparents live too far away to help. And I had a screaming match in my brain that Tracy never heard. Dark voice, bright voice. Dark voice said, don't you dare say what you're about to say. HR will shoot you. The lawyers will freak. The insurance policies go through the roof. The bright voice says, it's your company, you can do whatever you want. You don't even have an HR department. And I looked at Tracy, I said, bring her in. She said, what do you mean? I said, bring her to work. She said, all day? I said, sure. She said, every day? I said, why not? She looked around the big open room and she said, Rich, where will I put her? Because remember, this was not an offer to build a daycare. This is a baby's going to be with the parent. I said, Tracy, she's 3 months old. She's not going anywhere. Put her in a pack and play or a front pack or something. You know, she'll be with you all day. She says, what if she makes a fuss? I said, here's like a noisy restaurant. You'll never hear it. She says, come on, you've raised 3 girls. What if she makes that big baby fuss? The team will hate me. I said, Tracy, you're the mom. I trust you. You'll do the right thing. Let's run the experiment. That was 26 Menlo Babies ago. This has been the most amazing thing we've really done here in this culture is invite the newborns into the office. They come in all day, every day for months. They usually leave when they're about 7 or 8 months old. Once they get to be crawling and toddling, this isn't a good place for them with all the wires and dust bunnies and everything like that. But it is a delightful part of our culture.
I'm picturing a lot of handing off. Is that?
Oh yeah, no, they're
like
literally
you, that one picture
team,
you were holding the baby.
The team will give the mother or the father, because the dads have participated in this too. This is not just an option for the mom. And there will be a list of, it's my turn to hold the baby. Now, I will admit I have exercised CEO authority and put my name at the top of the list from time to time. But they'll literally be, I want to hold them. I want to hold them next. And if the parent's comfortable with that, then, you know, that's okay.
Yeah. Vic, you have your virtual hand raised. Before you ask your question, Vic, because we might start losing people, I want to mention who my guest is going to be in October. And October, we're going to be getting together on a different day, a week early and a day early. So it's Wednesday, October 6th. And my guest will be Bob Chapman, who
he's one of my best friends. I was just
yes, yes.
Louis. I love Bob.
Well, there's a reason that Bob and Rich are dear friends, because they're birds of a feather. They share a common mission, and you're not going to want to miss Bob Chapman.
I am not going to miss Bob Chapman. I'm going to be back for him.
Yes, it's another business conversation. Bob is the CEO of the biggest company you've never heard of, Barry Waymiller. They're about a $3.4 billion heavy equipment, industrial equipment manufacturing global company. Inc. magazine recently named Bob as the #3 leader in the world. And
Bob has been here to Menlo, and I've just been to Barry Waymiller. So let me tell you, you do not want to miss that. He is amazing.
He coined this term, truly human leadership. And it was an epiphany that he had at one of his, I think it was somebody who worked at the company at their wedding, their daughter's wedding. And Bob just said, you know, we're all sons and daughters of someone. We're going to treat people like family in this company. And truly, and like Menlo, truly human leadership has become another revenue stream for Barry Waymiller. They teach truly human leadership. So amazing. You're going to want to see that.